Continuing with my college football schedule preview point spread prediction videos. Today I'll be doing the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So Texas Tech's non-conference schedule is easy because they get two guaranteed wins against the Arkansas Pine Bluff, who's a FCS team, and Kent State, who's a group of five team that went at 0-12 last season. And for their Power Four non-conference opponent, they get Oregon State, a team that was not very good last year, and a team that Texas Tech has a much better roster than. And Texas Tech has six different conference opponents than last season. So last season they played Cincinnati, Arizona, Baylor, TCU, Iowa State, and Colorado. And instead, this year they will play Utah, Houston, Kansas, Kansas State, BYU, and Central Florida. And there are no games on Texas Tech's schedule where I would say they have a 0% chance of winning. All of their games, I would say they have at least a decent chance of winning. And I do think it's tougher switching TCU and Iowa State with Kansas State and BYU because Kansas State, BYU, and Iowa State are, I think, all going to be similar teams this season. While TCU, I think, might be a top 25 team, I think they're going to be worse than those three teams. And switching Cincinnati and Arizona with Houston and Central Florida, I don't think is going to make a difference in how tough the schedule is because all of those teams I think are going to be in the bottom half of the Big uh, 12. And the toughest two in a row is going to be Kansas State and BYU, which is why I think Texas Tech's second bye week comes at a bad time. It would have been better to have had it in between the Kansas State and BYU games instead of in between Central Florida and West Virginia. West Virginia, I think, is a team that is going to be struggling to make a bowl game this season. But I like where their first bye week that comes in between road games against Utah and Houston because Utah does have a pretty big home field advantage. And their head coach, Kyle Whittingham, said after their spring game that he thinks they're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the country. And while Texas Tech's head coach, Joey McGuire, I think will have the best roster this season that he's had since he's been there. And I think Texas Tech could possibly be a top 25 team. I don't think they're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the country. And while Houston is not a very tough place to play, they did get Connor Wayman from Texas A&M at quarterback, which I think is going to be a big upgrade for them. And I would like Texas Tech's chances of beating Kansas because Kansas only returns 54% of their production, which is 21% less than Texas Tech does. And Texas Tech returns Bayron Morton, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 and really one of the better quarterbacks in college football. And while he's not a good runner like Kansas's Jalen Daniels is. He's a better passer than Jalen Daniels is. And it's good that Texas Tech gets Oklahoma State in between the road games against Arizona State and Kansas State. And I will say that I'm almost sure that Texas Tech will win one of Arizona State, Kansas State, and BYU because while Arizona State, Kansas State, and BYU, I think will all have better defenses than Texas Tech will, and Texas Tech's quarterback Morton is a statue because he had negative yards rushing last season. And these three teams' quarterbacks are all above average runners. Uh, Texas Tech's Morton, I think, is a better pocket passer than all of these teams at quarterbacks are. And Texas Tech, like these three teams, has a really good wide receiver, Caleb Douglas, who's one of the best receivers in the Big 12. And the Texas Tech Arizona State game is interesting because both teams return a whole lot from last season, but both teams lose a really good running back that was the best player on their team. Texas Tech's Taj Brooks was almost as good of a running back last season as Cameron Scadaboo was, but he's not near as much of a loss at receiver for Texas Tech as Scadaboo is for Arizona State. But this schedule is nowhere near the toughest in the country, so I would say Texas Tech's ceiling is 10-2. But now for the point spread prediction. Games in the green are games where I think that Texas Tech will be favored to win by a blowout at 20 or more points, and there's two of those: Arkansas Pine Bluff and Kent State. Games in the purple are games where I think they'll be favored to win by about a touchdown, 6 to 9 points, and there's four of those: Oregon State, Houston, Oklahoma State, and Central Florida. Games in the pink are games where I think they'll be favored to win by about a field goal, 1 to 5 points. And there's two of those: Kansas and West Virginia. Games in the gray are games where I think that Texas Tech will be about a field goal underdog, and there's four of those: Utah, Arizona State, Kansas State, and BYU. So Arkansas Pine Bluff and Kent State, Texas Tech should be favored in both of those by around 50 points, and Oregon State, I think Texas Tech will be favored by 8 or 9 points in that one, and Houston, I think Texas Tech will be, I'll say, a 6 point favorite in it, but it wouldn't be shocking because it's a road game if it was a pink game when it comes time for it. And Oklahoma State, I'll say the spread will be at 6 points in that game. And Central Florida, I'll say Texas Tech will be an 8 or 9 point favorite in that one. And Kansas, I'll say the spread will be at 5 points. And West Virginia, I'll say the spread will be about 5 points. And Utah, that one's only in the gray because it's on the road. If it was at home, it'd be in the pink. But I'll say Utah will be favored by about a point over Texas Tech and Arizona State. Even though that one's on the road and Arizona State is supposed to be better than Texas Tech, I put that one in the gray because Texas Tech beat them last year. Otherwise, that would be a yellow game where Texas Tech would be about a touchdown underdog. But I'll say the spread will be 5 points in that one. And Kansas State, I'll say will be a 5 point favorite over Texas Tech. And BYU, I'll say the spread in that one will just be like a point because it's a home game, but it'd be close to a yellow game if it was on the road. So that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.